Andrew Tate. What do you think is going to happen there?
That would be wild.
The women being released way earlier, I thought was interesting. I wonder if they flipped.
Wait.
I thought sex trafficking was literally the Taken.
Absolutely.
Girls like in black vans getting smuggled out of Russia into like France, and they can't leave the house, or they get the like. That's what I thought sex trafficking for, and I think that's what most people think it is, right?
True.
So when you say that he's doing that, people are naturally like, "What? There's no fucking way he's doing that." But that's just because they don't understand.
And it's so crazy how uncharitable Destiny's being, considering like
no, if you're gonna start eugenicsing people with ADHD, at that point you're gonna start eugenicsing like a whole bunch of like neurodivergent people.
Mr. Girl is constantly looming in the background, like waiting for you to burn bridges with someone so he can contact that person. That constant mental pressure weighing down on you. Do you think that's like something that's weighing down on you, or like?
How's it going? How's the prepper stuff going, man?
I've cooled off on it. I've decided to take care of my family.
Cringe. What's your family going to do when the zombie apocalypse happens and now you haven't prepped anything for them?
Yeah, you won't even have a silo ready to go, bro. Come on.
I'm surprised. They're all very supportive of me getting guns in Canada, so I'm happy about that. They're also do it. So.
What actually happened in Canada? I think it's somewhat recently. Like the guns you can have, and you can't transfer them or buy them anymore, or is that always
buying new pistols? The shooting in Texas was so bad it reverberated all the way up into Trudeau's brain. He said, "No more pistols, guys."
Yeah, pistols specifically are no longer accessible, and you can't transfer or sell them anymore.
So if you have it, you can have it, but that's it.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, they're trying.
So was there like a mad rush to get pistols like the last week? Was this announced, or was it just no one knew and then overnight no more pistols? I think
after every shooting, they just noticed an uptick in gun purchases because the people are always thinking like, "Oh, this is the time they're going to ban guns." As for why they chose pistols specifically, I think his reasoning was pretty stupid if I remember reading up on. But yeah, I don't know. It's not very logical to be honest with you.
Yeah,
it is where we live.
Do you know if there was notice about it? Meaning, like, were they like, okay, next week you're going to buy pistols anymore?
Yes, there was a big notice about it. Yeah.
Nobody's very surprised because I think they've been hinting at it for quite some time in regards to them doing and creating more gun reform. So they've been pushing at it, and they have a lot of support from the people, and so this is kind of not a surprise to anybody who lives here now.
I wonder if so Australia did a huge forced gun buyback, recall, whatever you want to call it, and I guess it was successful because there's not a lot of shootings in Australia anymore. But I wonder if doing anything like this has any real power versus if you don't do a full recall. Like this seems like
in Australia they were doing recalls as well after.
No. That's what I'm saying. Like, so what they're doing in Canada, is this really going to curb gun violence a lot? Or is this more just
I think what's important to remember is like we're not Australia because we share a border with America. And like at the end of the day, if I really want a gun, I could just drive to America, get one, and then just drive through the border. It's not hard. Like it's very easy. Sure. I think like whatever gun crime exists, they're pretty much never going to be happening with legally owned guns. And because we share a border with you guys, like if anybody wants to get them illegal, it's not hard. So that's just the reality.
I feel like it would be kind of hard to get a gun illegally.
No.
I mean, well, I'm like a...
Wait, how do you get a gun in America if you're Canadian?
Yeah, I don't know
I'm pretty sure there's a lot of means by which people can get guns in America without being an American citizen. Is that not the case?
Oh, I mean, if you buy them privately, but I think you need to show at least an ID, don't you?
I mean, that depends on...
That's true. That's how you'd have to do it. You'd have to have like a fake ID and then go to a gun show. Sure. And you could 100% get one that way. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, like, border patrols not really exist in a lot of parts of, because with such a large border that we have, that it's like a lot of there's no enforcement of most rules when it comes to border crossings, and so it wouldn't be that difficult if you were actually trying. It wouldn't be like hiking over mountains to get one. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for people who want to purchase illegally, there's a lot of ways they can do so, and most of the people who are doing that are doing it for criminal reasons, and so yeah. That's why I said, like, comparing it to Australia just doesn't make much sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, I don't think it makes sense. I mean, I think there's so many guns in this country right now. Probably even, how many guns does Canada have? Do you guys have anything close? I mean, per capita, do you have anything close to the United States, or is it way different?
Sorry, repeat that last part.
Per capita, how many guns does Canada have, like, compared to the United States? Do you know? Probably not. I don't know either.
But I'd wager anything it's substantially less. Gun ownership, Canada per capita.
Just look up how many guns are in Canada. It's probably better.
Maybe it's higher than I thought it would be. 2.26 million men and women had gun licenses December 31st, 2022. That's surprising.
How many people live in Canada? You have a ton of people up there, don't you?
32 million?
Yeah.
32 million adults. There's a ranking here, actually. Canada's 7th. So America's 120 per 100 persons. Canada's ranked 7th at 34.
No kidding.
Yeah, and in second is the Falkland Islands, and then third is Yemen, fourth is New Macedonia, fifth is Serbia, sixth is Montenegro. Let's go. Based Eastern Europeans.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's kind of fire. I'm not gonna lie.
I would not have expected that.
Finland is 10th.
Doesn't Finland do something like everyone gets a gun or something like that?
Military service or like volunteer training or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, I thought okay. Switzerland.
Like
I would have thought Switzerland would have been higher, but apparently
like
not.
they all get fouls when they turn 18 years old or something. It's fucking. Have you gotten into any new internet beefs lately?
No. I mean,
No,
other than Nico stuff, I guess that might be new to you, but that's not even really a beef. It's just we have a laugh at him every now and then.
Yeah, it's just man, wild stuff, huh? What's the latest with Tate? I'm sure that you as a
was it weird bringing that up? I'm pretty sure you guys are friends or something, right?
No, I've met him once. That's it. Destiny's the one that's brother with him.
With who?
Because I saw a picture, and I've seen a few pictures of you at dinners with people, and normally, like your legs are crossed, but when you were eating dinner with Sneeko, your legs were wide open. So that's why I thought. Maybe
Are you trying to pull? What's that guy's name? The fucking green and red lines. Don't be trying to pull that bullshit on me. All right, I'm not. I'm pretty sure there's no science to the
body language.
Yeah, that shit. What is that? What was that guy's name?
Like Rivolo or something weird.
Yeah, he's like. This shit's funny as fuck though. Yeah.
Well, it's only funny until you realize there are people that actually believe it as like a real 100% science thing.
Yeah, I think I think it definitely is a tool you can use. I don't think it's always right, but I think in this case it felt pretty accurate. I felt like you were close to Sneeko in that moment.
I was close. Well, I was close physically to him. We were sitting next to each other.
All right, listen. Okay, but yes, you wanted to ask me about something else since you don't want to talk about it.
Oh yeah, Andrew Tate. You've been following that. Well, I assume so because you brought it up before. What do you think's going to happen there? And if you were a betting man, do you think he's just like going to go to jail for 10 plus years type of thing?
Think that they're definitely going to charge him. I would be very surprised if they just let him go because then they would
that would be wild.
Yeah, like I would even laugh at them if they just let this man walk after this whole detention portion. If they were not pressing charges, I would have a huge laugh.
Yeah.
So I imagine charges are going to be brought. I think it really depends. The women being released way earlier, I thought was interesting. I wonder if they flipped.
Wait. The police officer lady and the other lady have been released?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Am I not right about this? They've been released a while ago.
I just read that 4 hours ago they got extended for another 30 days. So that's
that's Andrew Tate and them. I don't think the women.
Yeah. No.
Wait, does anybody in chat know about this? Did I miss this?
I feel like now here's the problem.
They're on house arrest. Okay, sorry, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, that's different, right? They probably don't have the resources that Tate does, though. Like, if you let Tate out for 5 minutes and he goes to fucking Dubai or something, like, that's it. And also, like, you as, like, a Romanian official, it's like a fucking major black eye on your country. Like, this dude cucked you, and you know he's going to be on the fucking internet saying how he punked Romanian authorities and no one should... Like, you can't... Basically, they can't let him go.
Yeah.
Like, and that's because Tate fucked himself so much by doing this shit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But then again, his whole thing is built on that type of stuff. So I don't know. I don't know what you're doing, man.
Yeah, they had him also on tape, I think, recently from a jail cell phone trying to get politicians to put pressure on the whole system by offering them votes in the next election. So that also didn't work in their favor, because I'm pretty sure that was referenced in one of the more recent bail hearings when they were trying to get released. So I don't know. I think he's done some mistakes post arrest that have also not helped him out. If I was a betting man, I think the only way they bring this case forward is if they think they got a dub, or if they think they really got something. I don't think the prosecutor, from what I've read up on him, would bring forth this case if they had absolutely nothing. And so yeah, likely the charge is going to be brought forth, and I think it's probably likely that he's going to be charged successfully.
Huh. Yeah, I think so too. I wonder if there'll be a trial or if he'll plead out. Because I could see him pleading out, being like, I can't get a fair trial in Romania, yada, 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 and like doing it that way.
There's no way. I refuse to believe he would ever accept something like that.
Bet you $50 that he'll plead out. Even odds.
Okay, give me the terms of the plea that you think he would take.
That he will not go to trial. That there won't be like, I don't even know how they do it in Romania, but that at the end of the day, he will agree to a deal, and there will not be like a jury that walks in the room and is like, "We found you guilty."
There even is a jury.
They don't do jury trials. It's by 3 judges. Yeah,
judges. It's 3 judges. Who
do they even have? Do they have plea deals in Romania? They must.
They do. Every country's got plea deals. But the question is, like, what are the terms you think he would accept in terms of prison sentence? It would make Romania a fucking joke if this dude really is guilty of sex trafficking and they didn't put him in jail at all. Especially with
really.
Yeah, they've been trying to change their image in regards to sex trafficking in general. So it would look really stupid if they gave him a plea deal where he didn't spend time in jail.
No, I think he will spend time in jail. But I think like it's like if they scare him to thinking you go to trial, we're going to give you 50 years, or you can take 10 now. What's it going to be? I feel like then he might be like, I have to do it. There's no other option. I'm going to lose because they had me dead to rights because I'm a fucking moron and I tried to bribe people from the prison cell phone. And that, like, here's the thing. In a lot of countries, United States as well, there's so much. I don't know shit about Romanian stuff, so I'm just going to use U.S. But like, when you're in getting charged with a crime in the U.S., the amount of discretion that a prosecutor has sometimes can be fucking crazy, especially for federal crimes. Like, hey, you scammed a grandmother for $50, but it was over the phone. That's wire fraud. That's 15 years that I can seek, up to 30 if it was. It's like, holy shit, what? So I feel like if they have him dead to rights on just one of these small fucking things, like let's say they have him dead to rights, like everyone would agree on the phone call, like trying to bribe someone or someone. Like that might be a loan. Like, hey, that's a 20-year thing, and you can't. It doesn't matter if you're innocent on everything else. We're gonna get you just on that for 20 years. Like that's a compelling thing to be like, I actually have to take a 10-year thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I wonder if him as an individual would be open to that. I think there's just certain personalities who would not accept a plea. I don't know. To me, he strikes me as one of those types. I don't think he'd be willing to compromise on that one. Because I think it would, affect his business. I think it would affect his image. And I don't know. To me, in terms of ego, in terms of the mistakes made, I don't know if he would be willing to take a deal on that kind of.
Yeah.
I just don't. But then again, that's just me speaking out of my eyes, so I could be wrong about that. I just don't think he would take a plea deal.
The funny thing about Tate is it felt like a lot of the shit that got him into trouble is like he just didn't understand the law. He's like, it's not sex trafficking. I'm just like convincing girls to come over here on like by saying I'm going to be their husband. And it's like, okay, well, I think that's so much shit. It's like he just hasn't read the law. He thinks like sex trafficking is like out of Taken, where you're like, nabbing people in a car outside of the airport.
No, I think he knows it's legal. He just didn't think anybody would catch him or care that much because it's Romania.
Yeah. Exactly. I don't like. There's a lot of other guys doing similar things in Romania
that have already been arrested and busted for it, even using
some
loverboy method.
Some haven't. Like it has a huge issue with sex trafficking over there. Webcam business, like a lot of I think it's probably the largest market in the world for webcamming. And you have to imagine there's probably a lot of sex trafficking that's happening throughout that country. So he probably, he's intimated the fact that he has a lot of ties to the mafia or knows people who do similar lines of work. And so he's just, he just didn't think he would be the one to be punished for it, if that makes sense. Because he talks about it too. He talks about this service or a website where certain traffickers or certain dudes who are pimps paid the guy who ran the website to be able to get their girls at the top. So obviously he knew a lot of people who were competing in his market, and he probably didn't think he would be the one.
I don't know. Maybe I'm giving him too much credibility. So in my mind, I could see how someone would think it's not a crime to literally trick someone. Like if I trick you to like come to a country and it's like, oh well, I don't want to be your husband, I just want you to go like do porn for me, but I'm not physically keeping you, you can leave if you want, I guess. Like I feel like he could justify saying that that's not like a crime in his head. And then as far as like calling himself a pimp and saying, oh yeah, I'm on these pimp forums, like I wonder if he just did that to try and like make himself feel cool. Do you think he actually believed in his mind, like, I am a sex trafficker? Yes, I am. Like infrared going, I am a Mongol. Like, is he? I mean,
like, he literally had his
Hustlers
trafficker. University course was literally that, like teaching people how to be a pimp.
Yeah, but is it like a pimp?
It is a
or
pimp.
Is it like,
it's how to get girls to work as a webcam business for you. Like he talks about, like once you've got a few girls starting, you're printing money, but you got to keep them loyal to you. Blah blah blah. All the terminology and shit they use.
Does he ever like, you know, you have to lock the doors at night and not let them leave, and if they ask, like you punch them? Like I feel like
no,
that's
but
like,
you don't, that's not how pimping works.
like,
Nobody does that. That's not how pimping works for these types of girls, right? You're not actually like physically restraining them anywhere. You're just like making them dependent on you in other ways so that they don't want to leave.
Yeah.
I've never hit Melina, but you better believe she doesn't know where her passport is, you know?
Stop. Like, you say shit like this and you get yourself... He's joking. Melina has her passport and can leave anytime she wants to, as soon as Steven gives her the combination to the safe. No problem. Oh, man.
Yeah, I think people's image of sex trafficking is just distinctly different than what pimping is and what he was doing. And so I don't think... I probably would side with Dan that he may not have really believed he would be considered a sex trafficker. So yeah, I probably agree with Dan on that one. I don't think most people know what sex trafficking is, much less pimps. I don't think pimps know what sex trafficking is, or at least their idea of sex trafficking isn't accurate or doesn't include every different type of sex trafficking possible.
I don't know, man.
Before this case, I didn't even know it was considered sex trafficking. You would have told me. I always knew it was unethical and it was extremely wrong and manipulative to do, but I didn't know it was illegal.
I thought sex trafficking was literally the Taken shit. You know, that's what I thought it was.
Absolutely.
Like, in girls, like in black vans, getting smuggled out of Russia into like France, and they can't leave the house or they get the shit. Like, that's what I thought sex trafficking was. And I think that's what most people think it is, right?
True.
So when you say that he's doing that, people are naturally like, what? There's no fucking way he's doing that. But that's just because they don't understand, I think, you know, what it actually is, I guess. You know, and that's the problem. I think that's like the huge disconnect with a lot of this shit.
I'm inclined to agree with everything you just said right there. I think me and Dan are on the same boat.
Well, great minds think alike, you know.
Absolutely. Destiny's just so uncharitable and wants to believe this guy's a sex trafficker.
True.
So
I'm just so biased
he
against him.
He can't even see his side. He won't even like make an effort to see his side. That's the wild part, bro. Yeah, like, you know, the guy's a bullshitter. Everyone knows that. He's out there like saying like he's a trillionaire. Obviously, this guy's full of shit. Destiny thinks this guy's going to bed like, oh, I'm a sex trafficker. I trafficked so many girls today. Obviously, it wasn't the case.
And it's so crazy how uncharitable Destiny's being, considering like he just spent a whole stream yesterday discussing how like uncharitable Brittany was being. I was just like,
you know, how about? I'm glad you brought that up. What are your takes on that whole situation? Because it seems wild, you know. And I'd like, you've been there. You have a lot of insight. I mean, if you don't want to comment, that's fine. But I'd love to hear what you have to say. Otherwise,
if you could give everyone who had a mental illness or mental disorders like $5,000 each, and in exchange they cannot have kids or reproduce, would that be an unethical thing to do? I've thought of that question before, so I think it'd be interesting to ask you that specifically.
I don't know. You'd have to get into the weeds on all of it. Here's what I'll say. I'm not like principally opposed to eugenics. It's a very, very, very difficult question, and there's a lot to like get into. But like, yeah, so there's probably some number, there's probably some level of consent from the affected people that I probably agree with, but it's a very hairy conversation, right? But like, I mean, like, so, arguably, like women that get abortions for children that have Down syndrome are practicing a form of eugenics, right?
Right.
Yeah. So it's a complicated conversation that's fraught with a lot of stuff. Yeah.
So I guess I would ask you because I think in your case you mentioned at one point that both you and your son have ADHD. I believe, is that correct?
Maybe. I don't. Well, he does. I don't know if I do.
Okay. Well, wait. You don't know if you have ADHD?
He's diagnosed. I'm self-diagnosed on TikTok. Okay.
Okay, gotcha. So I'll assume that you probably do have it.
Okay. I am retarded.
Would you say that it was unethical maybe for you to have your son if you had ADHD in your particular instance?
No, I don't think ADHD is such a debilitating thing that those people shouldn't be born. I don't think autism is like such a debilitating thing those people shouldn't have been born.
No, I mean, I would say that like I would say that like having a debilitating illness that like prevents you from being able to focus on a basic task, I would say like that's pretty inconvenient for your ability to function.
There are like many levels
case,
of like ADHD, right?
Yeah, but I think in your case, didn't you say that like you were stuck in a dead end job for most of your life because
yeah,
of
but that
your
wasn't
mental
because of
state?
my ADHD. That was because of me not understanding corporate politics and being too aggressive, I guess. Or
Well,
something.
I
But it wasn't
would
because of my
definitely say that
ADHD.
it's because of your.
Okay, it's because of my ADHD. Gotcha. Okay, well. I mean, if you're gonna
Well,
start,
I mean, no,
if
okay,
you're gonna
so-
start eugenicsing people with ADHD, at that point, you're gonna start eugenicsing like a whole bunch of like neurodivergent people. Like, I don't even know who's gonna be left at the end.
Well,
Of
I
that.
mean, yeah, that's kind of the point, right? Like, if you want to create like a society where there's like less crime, less people who are burdens, less people who are miserable, right? Like, you want to like be more careful about who you allow to reproduce, right?
That's
So, like,
one way
I would
to
say
go
that,
for it, but I mean, like, that's never going to be a popular policy, right? Like, you're not going to get any broad support for that. So then you have to question how effective it would actually be if nobody wants to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I acknowledge it wouldn't be popular, but like, I do think it's something worth considering because, like,
I don't. I think it'd be more worth considering, like, how to change society in subtle ways that complement people with different, like, neurodivergencies would probably be better. Like, people with ADHD or people with autism.
I don't think that.
You don't think people with ADHD or people with autism might be slightly better at other types of things? There might be like different ways to teach them or different environments that they'd be more suited for? You think they're just like by
No,
de facto
I don't
just
think
worse
there's any
off?
way you could rework society so that way it facilitates the vast majority of neurotypical people and also that it has room for complementing neurodivergent people. I just don't think that's possible. You can do both.
I don't know. I mean, I used to think dyslexia was like a retard reading syndrome for a long fucking time, but then I've heard that there are other ways to teach people with dyslexia how to read. My ex-wife could read faster than I could, and she had dyslexia hardcore. I don't know. It seems like there's probably. You really think that like that we've discovered like peak efficiency in terms of like how to educate people and how to run society? That there's no other ways that like neurodivergent people could contribute in ways that are uniquely suited to their abilities?
I just feel like the effort that it would take to have to accommodate that isn't worth it, nor should
Well,
it
you
be.
can't appeal to practicality here because the effort on the end of what you're talking about is literally politically impossible. Voluntary eugenics for everybody that has like ADHD or autism or whatever, like this is...
Wait, hold on. Repeat that last part. Sorry.
Whatever you're appealing to the practicality of my statement that reworking a world that suits both neurodivergent people and neurotypical people, that would be practically impossible. And then your solution to that is eugenics. But I would say, well, if we're analyzing things on practicality, like eugenics is even voluntary is impossible because practically nobody's going to go for it.
Okay, I would at least push. Okay, so that one I guess I could concede to you on, but like I would push back on the grounds of you said that like people who are like with dyslexia or autism or ADHD or whatever, they're better in other areas than the average person because of their illness. I don't know if that's even worth acknowledging because it's like if a person like lost both their legs, right? But in exchange they got a third arm. Like I guess the third arm might be good for like carrying more things at one time, but like the two legs they lost was such a huge cost. Like I don't think a person like at that point it's like the cost easily outweighs the benefit. I don't think that they're necessarily like there's anything good about it.
Yeah, possibly, but like so I don't actually know the answer to this. I know there's like fucking movies and shit made. Was Alan Turing, was that guy like autistic?
I've never heard of him before. No.
Fuck. Because if there are some like geniuses that are like autistic, maybe it is the case that the fact that they were neurodivergent like helped them analyze or look at problems in a different light that otherwise wouldn't normally be able to.
I don't know. Has there any figures throughout history that we know for sure were like neurodivergent who were like geniuses or whatever?
I don't remember if Turing.
Because like
was
I
or
guess
wasn't,
maybe I
don't
could
remember.
concede. Yeah, because like I super doubt that. I don't think in most cases people with debilitating illness could prosper in a society.
Potentially. You got to be really careful when you say like debilitating illness. Like even autism is on a spectrum. Some autism is absolutely fucking debilitating. And other people are like, like you don't even know they're autistic because it's like so minor, right? Like we used to diagnose them as Asperger's.
Well, I think it's like even the definitionally speaking, autism literally scales with functioning levels, right?
Sure.
So like if you're a high functioning autist, and then if you're medium functioning, and then low functioning autist, the more autistic you are, the more lower functioning you are. It literally scales in a negative direction with your ability to function.
Sure.
So like I just don't think that you're trying to like say that like, oh, autism has its benefits. Like I don't know.
I'm not trying to say it has its benefits. It might be the fact that like it might be for like autism for other things, or for ADHD, for instance, these might be strictly negative things. That is possible, where like it's just like there's no upside. But it might also be the case that if the world is structured in a slightly different way, maybe there is some benefit to that. Jesus, have you ever heard of? Is it called gay uncle theory, or am I making this up? Have you ever heard of this before?
Have not. What is that?
I think this is just an Evo idea. I don't know if there's like any research. I don't even know if you could have research supporting this, but it's the idea basically that like gay people can start to crop up in like highly crowded societies, and the benefit is that you basically have more people around that aren't competing for like mate selection, but are able to help like assist with families and stuff. So like even like gay people, there might be like an evolutionary reason why homosexuality pops up in different types of groups or animal populations. I don't know if that's true or not, but like that could be an example of something where it's like being gay seems like strictly a negative thing that is probably never going to be advantageous, but then, well, maybe it could be in some ways, right?
Well, that's for gay people. I'm specifically referring to like mental diseases. I don't think I would say gay counts as a mental disease.
I mean, it's just it's a totally. I mean, I guess it depends on how you're defining things.
Because
right?
like, does being gay inhibit your ability to function and like participate
Technically,
in society?
being gay inhibits the most important function you have, which is reproduction, right? Arguably, the most important function you have as a creature, for your genes, is to reproduce. That's like the whole point of how they're created.
No, because like a human's goal, I would assume, is to pursue happiness, and you don't necessarily need to reproduce to pursue happiness.
Well, you got to be really careful about pursuing happiness, because they're arguably, like, some retarded people are maybe actually are more functional than non-retarded people. I'm sure there's a lot of Down syndrome kids that are super fucking happy that it's very hard to like upset them, right? But I don't know if just like pursuing happiness. Go ahead.
But that's with accommodations from neurotypical people around them. They're a burden as a result of that. So like. They're only happy because like there are people around them who are constantly taking care of them, but they're still a burden on a societal level, which is bad.
Potentially. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know right now the state of. Here's like kind of my question is like, why do we have so many fucking people with ADHD? Seems like we're like having a lot of people. Are we doing something wrong, societally speaking, in terms of producing people with ADHD, or are there like more facets to the human experience that we would consider them neuroatypical, but it's only because they just don't work with the pretty select world that we have right now, right? Does that make sense? Like for instance, we might be creating a world that is like incompatible with men. Right? So when we look at things like ADHD, it might be the case that like sitting down in an office and taking direction and being personable and communicative and nice to people, like women are really well suited to that environment, and our whole economy is moving more and more and more and more to service. Service sectors are like growing massively, right? It might be the case that we're like creating a world where men are almost like unable to function, because maybe it's the case that like biologically speaking, maybe men are just built a little bit more to do like physical things, to move their bodies more, and that's kind of like how we express and create and do things. But that is becoming increasingly not how our world is functioning, right? Like white collar and service stuff are so much more preferred in today's economy. So like, could we be in a world, for instance, where somebody like you is saying like, oh, like maybe we need to get rid of all men because like their atypicalness isn't suited for today's like environment, you know? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we should get rid of all men. We obviously need to keep them around if we want the species to live. But I think what I previously said about men was like, I do think that like asking men to fight their biological hurdles. I think my point back then was that. I wasn't
referring to your point back then. I was just saying like in general. Like here's a question. Do you think people with ADHD, let's say we still did like hunter-gatherer lifestyles, do you think people with ADHD would be at a disadvantage in those lifestyles?
But that's not the reality we're living in.
I know it's
assume that
not, but
when
I'm
people-
saying that like our neuroatypicalness is like we're like it would be scary if we were finding ways to pathologize normal facets of the mind just because our society is changing in certain ways. Do you think that's like frightening, or do you not care about that as much?
Okay, I don't think so, because like we already do kind of prioritize people who are stronger, better than people who and people are still left behind, quote unquote. So like in society, even in modern day society, right? Like there are people who are quote unquote left behind, or the weak ones, the recessive people. They are people who there are people who end up poor, people who end up homeless, people with mental illness end up as drug addicts on the streets. Those are people who are already left behind to rot. And people with, good genes, quote unquote, are people who end up rich, successful, have creative ideas, ingenuity, like invent products that make them rich. So like we already do kind of leave behind people who are,
yeah, sure. I'm not talking about necessarily
say.
getting left behind, though. I'm talking about very specifically this idea that you're like pathologizing things that might be part of like the human mind, like just like a normal facet of like these aren't like mentally unhealthy people. There's nothing going wrong biologically. It's just that society's changed in such a way that certain types of minds don't work as well today. But it would be scary to like pathologize that.
It would be scary to pathologize. I think we already kind of do
I agree.
have pathologized like all the time. Like
Yeah, I think
our
we do.
species
Yeah,
has always done that.
But then the question is like, is it healthy in that direction? Like if we start making it like, let's say that our society continues to move in the way that it is, and like everybody's kind of expected to be able to sit down and do a computer job. And let's say that in that world, especially young men are diagnosed with ADHD at like 40 or 50% because they're just not capable of like existing and thriving in that like computer programmer world. Like, is that good? Do we want to be in that society where it's like 40% of men need to be medicated in order to function? Or are we looking to like do something a little bit different there with society maybe?
Well, I do think that that's inevitable. That's always going to happen. And like with what I said earlier, like I think that like there are always going to be people who will struggle more because of how they're born. So like that's inevitable. I don't think that's scary.
Yeah, but like if you don't think that there's like some percentage that could reach where it's like, oof, like maybe this is like getting a little bit out of hand, or is it just we just keep going and say fuck it?
When it becomes too much, no, I don't think it'll ever reach a huge enough number for it to be a concern. I think there's always going to be the majority of people who will have the qualifications to survive and prosper. But just like the groups are going to change, but the number will still relatively remain the majority. But ideally we would to try and loop it back, ideally we would try to make it so that people who are more able to prosper are the ones reproducing, I would say, because like you did mention earlier that like we have a lot more people nowadays that have ADHD.
Wouldn't it be better to
I do think that like that isn't. Oh, sorry, what were you gonna say?
I feel like maintaining like high genetic diversity would be pretty important though, like because the world could change, and what if we've like gene edited ourselves to just be like one type of people and that's all that we have?
I think that like stuff like race, like African Americans and like white people mixing, like that's fine.
I'm not even thinking of that. I just
talking
mean
about
even in
stuff
like
with like
even in terms of trait selection. Like, what if we get to the point to where like AI has solved like all, like I don't think this will happen, but let's say theoretically AI solves like a lot of the hard like kind of thinking problems, and now what we really need are like people that like work the service tunnels to like maintain our like AI overlords or something, and that's like the main thing that humans, because our bodies let us move in a lot of environments, et cetera, that's like the main thing we excel at. But what if we like gene edited or eugenics all those people away, and now the only thing you have are like super smart people that can't like work on anything like that?
Wait, so what instances would there be where you would want someone with like an ADHD or an autism gene, like in that world?
Maybe people with ADHD are more likely to just be more physically active outside. They have like an easier time like just doing physical tasks because that's like how their mind works. It's how their body works. Maybe.
I mean, I don't know. That seems like such a niche instance where I don't even know. I think neurotypical people would be just as capable of doing that. We don't need to keep ADHD people around for that.
Okay. I don't know where the research is on that right now. Or not. I thought my understanding is that people with like ADHD are a lot more physically wired to like be active and do stuff. But maybe that's not true. I don't know where the actual research is on that right now.
I don't know. I just I thought about this question because when I saw the tweet, it got me wondering like would society be peaceful if there was less people reproducing with like the quote unquote bad genes? Because like I remembered because like you said, like I don't know, I guess you didn't say this, but you said like you and your son both have ADHD, and that was like an example of like, oh, this person had a bad gene and then they had a child and then that child has the bad gene as well. I'm thinking like, what if we prevented that? Like, wouldn't that ideally reduce the number of people with
bad genes,
debilitating illness?
But then it theoretically comes down to like, what are the bad genes, right? There are certain things, like if you weren't using ADHD as an example, I could, like for instance, if you were talking about like schizophrenia or something, like I think there are things that you can make a stronger argument about that from. But the ADHD is a really scary one because, again, it goes into that thing I said where I don't know if we're pathologizing what's like technically a normal, healthy human mind. It might be the case that we're pathologizing too much at that point. And I wonder about that for ADHD. I wonder for Nathan. I wonder for myself. I wonder for society. Like, it's a hard one, I think, to deal with. I don't think it's quite as simple as like, well, they had trouble concentrating, so they're, fuck them.
I would say like the vast majority of people, like speaking anecdotally, the vast majority of people with ADHD do struggle more, for example, in classrooms and in job environments. And I would say like that would be an instance where we could be like, okay, this is making your life harder. This is like a kind of like the same, maybe not the same extreme.
That might be true, but like, so here's a question I have, and I could be wrong, but like, could it be that there are like some benefits to ADHD, and if you had those benefits, like you wouldn't even get a diagnosis?
Like, what benefit? I don't think there are any benefits. You mentioned that like you might be able to work harder physically outside. I don't know if that's.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm not sure.
Like
these are like things I think I've like kind of heard in passing, but I don't know if that's actually true or not. I'm not 100% sure on that.
Yeah, I would put huge doubt on that. I don't think there's any like significant upsides to ADHD that would make it worth it, I guess you could say. So I don't know. But then, yeah. I don't know. I guess that was my main thing. I just don't know having like if a person, like for example, if I had autism, should I have a kid? But I'm high functioning. Let's say I was high functioning autistic. Would you consider it to be unethical, in your opinion, if I had a kid?
I don't think so either, but it also comes down into things too that like a lot of these genetic things are going to be probabilistic. Like, what if you had genes for autism, but it's like a 25% chance of them being activated?
I would concede that like in my ideal world, there's always going to be the cracks where someone like doesn't have autism, but they give birth to a child that does, just due to bad luck. But like ideally, we could, in an ideal world, like minimize those cases as much as possible. So like people who are diagnosed autistic, like we know for sure like they have the bad gene, they can't have kids. So that way we at least like minimize and lower the percentage of people with deformities as much as we possibly can. But I mean, I guess. And I don't know. There was one other thing I wanted to ask you. If that's okay.
God damn it. Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so about the recent bridge burning with Brittany Simon. I remember watching the stream a few days ago when it happened. You seemed pretty like shook by it. Like, did it catch you by surprise, or like, do you think in retrospect it was pretty obvious that conversation with Brittany was like the bridge burning event that made her like hate your guts or whatever?
No, I didn't think it was going to be that much. So it was, yes, it was a little surprising, yeah.
Wait, sorry, you're cutting out.
Yes, it was a little surprising. I knew that it like was affecting her. I didn't know it was going to affect her for that much or over that period of time.
Do you think that like now that like in the past, obviously you've had bridges burned with so many times, do you think that now that Mr. Girl is constantly looming in the background, like waiting for you to burn bridges with someone so he can contact that person, do you think like that constant mental pressure weighing down on you, do you think that's like something that's weighing down on you, or like do you think you can still handle it?
I mean, I definitely think about it a lot, but there's not much I can do about it, so I try not to stress over things that I have little to no control over, because it just like destroys your mind.
Right. Do you worry that like you might be reaching your limit now with Mr. Girl, like potentially making it he's writing an article on you and makes it so that every time I think you say every time you DM a girl, he's gonna DM them and tell them like, oh hey, he's a rapist or whatever.
No, I'm waiting for his article to drop. If he does like some second article shit or something, at some point I'd probably I'd go back to my Canadian lawyer and I'd try to sue him or something, or like at the very least I get a restraining order, because the harassment is a little bit insane.
Do you think because I did have a previous conversation with you a while ago about how I think that you have you don't agree with this, a maladaptive behavior with like platforming crazier people. Do you think Mr. Girl, like now that after all that's happened since then, are you still maintaining that like Mr. Girl isn't like causing you more and more stress that you are like slowly repressing?
I don't think I'm repressing. I can definitely feel when I'm stressed. Yeah, if I had known that Mr. Girl was like truly this narcissistic, I wouldn't have dealt with him initially. No.
Okay, so you do regret platforming him then, or am I
saying you regret it? That's really hard. If somebody gives me a box that has like $1 million in it, but there's like a 1% chance that somebody comes out and kicks you in the nuts, and I do it, it's like, did you regret taking it afterwards? I'm not sure. What like my bro? Why do I not have these? My because I don't have workers. The standards that I have for like who I platform have helped me like in super unique ways that no other streamer I think has been able to explore things that I've done or have people that I've talked to. But then it's also left me open to like pretty unique harms that other people don't have to deal with. So like whether or not it's like overall like a net good or net bad, I don't know, it's to be determined. Maybe on my deathbed I'll be able to figure that out. But like as of right now, I don't think I regret overall like the policies I have in terms of like the people that I'm willing to talk to or platform. But I mean, like obviously, I'm constantly like trying to refine like my selection criteria and everything.
Okay, fair enough. Well, be careful out there, dude. Hopefully you don't burn another bridge in the next week or so.
Well, it'll just be another week or two on the article, so.